Hello and welcome back to goldstocktrades.com. Today we have a new and special guest with us, Peter Cowley. Peter is the president of Loncor Resources, which can be traded as LN on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and it also can be traded as LONCF on the OTC. It's a very exciting company, partnered with Barrick on the Nagayu Greenstone Belt, very experienced team. Peter, thank you for being here with us today, for giving us an introduction into Loncor and to your experience working in Africa.
Well, thanks, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Well, Loncor is a company that I recently got interested because the founder of Loncor, Arnie Conrad, and you have been involved in projects in the DRC for over 20 years. You've assembled a very experienced exploration team, successful track record. Could you tell us more about yourself? Before the call, you mentioned that you were with AngloGold Ashanti. You worked with Sam Jonah for 10 years. Talk to us a little bit, because a lot of us that are new to investing in Africa and seeing the opportunities there, we're just starting to learn about the success of AngloGold Ashanti and in this next gold market, possibly to see some major wealth creation in Africa.
Sure, Jeff. No, I say I've been involved in gold projects in Africa for probably 35 years, and we've been lucky with good geologists. I've been involved in a number of major discoveries on the continent. If we go back to the late 80s, that was a time when Africa had gone through its sort of post-colonial social doctrine, and they were desperate for foreign investment. So they were changing their mining codes to encourage foreign investment, and that was led by, obviously, as it always is, led by the junior mining companies. There were in Africa, a lot of British, Canadian, Australian juniors. So I was involved with a company called Clough Resources, a British company. I was the technical director, so I was responsible for exploration and development. And we were very successful. We were there in the early days. So we found mines in Zimbabwe and Ghana. We explored, developed them, and brought them into production. And we also acquired a very promising exploration project in Tanzania, because Tanzania was opening up at that time. And mainly because of our success, we were then the Clough was acquired by Ashanti Goldfields. That was run by quite a charismatic CEO called Sam Jonah. And he persuaded me to go and work for him. So I became Ashanti's exploration director. So I was responsible for all exploration on the continent. And at that time, we were very, very aggressive. We were in 17 African countries. So I was spending most of my time on a plane. We had offices all over the place. But anyway, Ashanti's focus was still this project called Gator in Tanzania. It was an old mine, mined in the 50s. But, again, in those days, they were just mining high-grade deposits. You didn't have these big open pit operations, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, we started exploring at Gator, and we were very successful. My exploration team, by the time it got into production, that was in 2003, we'd found 17 million ounces. So it became a world-class mine. And especially, we found a blind deposit. That's a deposit which there's no surface expression. So you use all your black boxes and your geochemical and geophysical methods, and we found it, and it turned out to be the biggest. So, what you see on surface is not often what is there, but it's a good place to be. So you just keep hammering away and you find the big one. So in 2003, the mine came into production, and since then, it's still in production today. It's became AngloGold took over Ashanti in 2004, 2003, 2004, and then it's been the flagship really of AngloGold Ashanti. still in operation to now. So it's been producing a lot of gold since 2003, and it's now going into the underground, more the underground phase. So that was, in 2004, I left well, the merger of the two companies because I wanted to get back, see my family more often in the UK. And just about that time, Arnie Conrad had tied up a huge gold belt called Twangiza Namoya in eastern Congo. It was a old colonial belt, so 200 kilometers long. So Arnie convinced me, said, "Look, come and work for me." And so I essentially took a lot of my very successful Ashanti team, ex-geologists, etc., and they came and worked for me with Banro. So that started in 2004. By 2008, beginning of 2008, again, we'd been very successful. We'd found 12 million ounces of gold.
12 ounces,
12
wow.
million, yeah.
Wow.
So, and they were in 4 separate deposits. 4 of those turned out to be mines. I actually stepped down in 2008 from Banro because all the exploration objectives have been.
You're an explorer. That's your expertise, right?
Well, that's the exciting part, isn't it? So,
yeah. Right.
So,
that's the value creation part. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great because we get there in the early days in these countries of prospects. We try to always bring the local community with us, so we don't try. There's often in these places there are artisanal miners who that's their bread and butter, but we try to let them get on with it. We use our exploration sophisticated methods. We employ a lot of people. We do a lot of community projects, build schools for them, etc., etc. So, it's nice to see how well. It was funny, about 5 years ago, I went back to Gator, and all the junior national geologists or engineers which I had employed way back from the Clough days, they were now chief geologists. They were now senior people within these big multinational companies. And to be honest, even at Loncor, most of my geologists, again from Ashanti days, and most of them are Tanzanian or Ghanaian national geologists, because to be honest, they've got the skills now, and I think they're probably the best people to have, rather than you get an expatriate in and he doesn't understand the language or the community, etc., etc. So no, we've been very successful. Yeah.
A little bit more about that, because some of the questions that people had when I told them that I was going to interview the president of Loncor is they hear about DRC, the Congo, and they're concerned about the safety. The thing that amazes me about this team is, and the Barrick team, is that they've been able to really successfully operate while others that have come in have done a pretty poor job. So can you explain to investors about DRC and why some people like Barrick and you guys have been so successful operating there, and others seem like they have lots of challenges?
Yeah, well, but I mean, Barrick originally it was Randgold. Randgold was the company, and essentially what we did, there were big mines developed in Tanzania in the 90s, and if you go across the African Rift Valley, you have exactly the same geology. You have the same it's called Archean greenstone belts, and these are Archean greenstone belts. They're prolific gold producers everywhere in the world. Western Australia, Abitibi Belt in Canada, in Brazil, etc. So it's a good place to be. And at that time, I think what happened, Congo had gone through a civil war in the beginning of the 2000s, and they all settled down. And the company there was a new president, etc. So we were, again, Arnie either in Banro or in Gayu. We were there fairly early on, and our focus really was the geology, and the rest came the same. In the terms of Barrick, Randgold, again, Randgold took over, acquired a junior, and we, in that part of the world, we were working Loncor in 2010. It was about the same time when Randgold got involved by taking over a junior in another greenstone belt called Moto. And at Moto, this is where Randgold developed or has, a world-class mine. So they developed it with, it was a joint venture with AngloGold Ashanti. So it's with Randgold was the operator. Obviously, Randgold then was taken over or whatever, merged with Barrick. So this mine now, it's about 200 kilometers from our project in Ngayu in the Greenstone Belt. Same geology. It last year produced over 814,000 ounces, and its all-in sustaining cash costs were under $700 an ounce. So, the operating margin with current
under 700 an ounce.
Yeah. So, they're churning out a lot of cash, and it's the flagship of one of the flagships of Barrick now. So, its current resources are 17 million ounces. So it's a long life mine, and the geology is again similar to Gator and similar to what we have in Ngayu. For example, at Ngayu, which Loncor has, we've got part of it, half the belt. We've got a joint venture with Barrick now, because Barrick sort of said, look, we're in a part of the world we're comfortable with. It's a major mine, this Kibali mine of theirs, and we want to find some more mines in similar geological terrain. So that's why Barrick came in 2016 and did joint venture with Loncor, and they've been systematically working on it, and they're getting it. We've got to the exciting stage with Barrick now, is that they've got the drills in the country. It was slightly delayed because of the coronavirus, but there's a bit more paperwork at the border. But otherwise, the projects are carrying on. We've got guys in the field. Barrick have got the guys there, and we're getting the exciting bit now. Within the next month or two, they're actually going to start drilling with 2 rigs. They've already got the rigs at Kibali now at their mine, and they've just got to redeploy them now to our project called Ngayu. So we've got high hopes for that. But besides that, Arnie consolidated this Ngayu belt and picked up some new ground, which is very significant, called Imbo, which has a deposit called Adumbi on it. Yeah, sure.
So remind me, when did Barrick got involved in Ngayu? You said in 2016?
Yes. So just going back a little bit, Arnie first got the ground in 2010. So after Banro, then I became the CEO there of that ground. We had just about the entire belt. It was over 4,000 square kilometers of, there's no paved roads in that part of the world. It's quite densely forested. And so our first, this is in 2010, was how do we evaluate a very large area in a lot of time? Because you have to then, work on the area, decide what you want, and then give away 50% back to the government. And for that, we were fortunate that at that time, another major called Newmont, they saw the potential of Ngayu, and said, yeah, and they took a 20% equity interest, which was great. And but more important, they also provided us with an exploration tool. It's a type of stream sediment called BLEG, and it's proprietary to Newmont. They have their own laboratory in Western Australia, etc. And they use that as a screening tool worldwide to say, you've got a big chunk of ground, where the prospective areas. And it's exactly what we needed. We used their method. We had an agreement with them. We used their method, and that took us to 2013. In the interim,
proprietary patented.
No, other people use it, but theirs is quite a sophisticated bleg. Bleg means bulk leach extractable gold. It's a way of detecting areas of regional areas of interest, but it detects very low levels of gold. So they've sort of made it sophisticated. As I said, they've got their own laboratory which they use in Western Australia. So that got us to 2012. We had done some drilling previously. We went to an obvious target called Macapella, and we'd actually drilled that out. We were doing the regional work using Newmont's tools, but we also went to an obvious target, drilled that out. It was altogether about 1.2 million ounces of resources. It's a high-grade resource. The indicated resource is about 600,000 at grade at 8 grams. So it's a high-grade vein deposit. So we had drilled that, and then 2013 came. The gold price cratered, and it went down to, I think, $1,200 an ounce. And of course, the juniors are the first ones to suffer. So it was more or less, the Loncor's project called Ngayu was just put on hold until Barrick came in 2016. One day if I can show you some maps and things, or you'll see on the presentation on our website, the startling thing is you take the Gator Greenstone Belt, 17 million ounces, which we found there, and you then look on the same scale as in Ngayu. It's exactly the same geology. The gold is associated with a specific sequence of rocks called banded ironstone formations, same as at Gator, but Ngayu is about 4 times the size.
Wow, 4 times
Gator.
the size.
Yeah, if you go on the website, you'll see in one of our presentations.
I'll share that map soon.
Yeah.
That's
so that was the key. So yeah, where we are now, Barrick, spent a lot of time. They've got very good geologists. They've learned the controls of the mineralization at Kibali, similar, related to banded ironstones, and now they've spent, let's say, 3 years now meticulously going over the joint venture ground, nearly 2,000 square kilometers, and then getting to the exciting bit now. But we've got our own projects as well, which I think it's called. We made quite an impressive press release last month. We'd increased the resources significantly.
Let me ask about that, because there's, people are asking, what are the catalysts here with Loncor? Why do you like it now? And so you have Barrick starting to drill. Yeah. You also came out with a 2.5 million ounce resource, and you have a PEA. I heard that you may start working on. Plus, you have your own exploration properties that you're going to do your own possible drilling on. So there's about 3 different things that I see going on right now that could be pretty important for shareholders.
Yes, no, exactly, Jeb. So besides Barrick, we have a very promising project called IMBO, and it was actually it was acquired September 2019. Historically, it was in Belgium colonial times the largest producer in the Ngayu belt. And it was originally again an Australian junior called Kilo Gold Mines. They'd had it since about 2010, 2012, and they'd done quite a lot of drilling on this deposit. Again, it's related exactly to the Gator style of mineralizations in banded ironstones. So they drilled about 60 holes, very good intercepts, 60 meters of 2 grams, 21 meters of 5 grams. This is all shallow, open pit material. So in 2014, they got independent consultants called RPA, and they outlined about 1.7 million ounces of gold resources. And what the independent consultant said, look, it's open in all direction, still a lot of upside. So they recommended various work, which Kilo Gold geologists went and did over the period 2014 to 2019. They relogged all the core, and they did some additional drilling at depth where the mineralization is completely open. And some of their holes were really good. 23 meters at 6 grams, 12 meters at 7 grams. Really good stuff. And what we did when we acquired the ground, as I say, or acquired the project in September last year, we then got our independent consultants to look at it and say, well, look, quantify the upside. What Kilo geologists had done in 2014 to 2019, quantify it in terms of what it is. So they redid the resource essentially using this new information, and basically on IMBO they increased the resources by 49% to 2.5 million ounces, as you said, and good grades.
Wow.
Yeah, 2.5 grams. Which is, and a lot of that's open pit. So that's good by world standards. It's good. And what our consultant said, well, look, and the mineralization is still open at depth. So really our plans now for the IMBO project, which contains 3 deposits, but the one we're focusing on really is Adumbi, and what we aimed at, which is 2.2 million ounces now, and we want to go and do some more drilling. We've got a subject to finance with 7,000 meters of drilling. We're going to drill it at depth. It's I'm pretty confident the mineralization just keeps carrying on, and then we'll go and redo the resource. And certainly by doing this drilling, a dozen holes, we have the potential to double this resource.
Double it.
Double the resource. And then what we want to do is say, look, this is what we've got. And then, as you said, do a PEA, which is like a scope study. And that PEA will look at, there's plenty of projects where over the years, people just keep hammering away. And in the end of the day, it's, you could have stopped 5 years before because it was never ever going to be economic. So That's what we need the PEA for. So we'll redo the resource. There should be a significant increase. We will then do our mining studies, because it'll be mainly open pit, but there will also be an underground component to it. Do the studies, do the processing. We want to know how easy the gold is to get out of the rock. So we'll do metallurgical test work, and then we'll put some numbers to the capital costs and operating costs, and we'll see how what it looks like. So that's the immediate work we're doing on IMBO. And one thing other in IMBO, which is maybe the third prong, which we're getting pretty excited about, is on the IMBO license in the northwest. That's where Adumbi is, but it's on a major structural trend, mineralized trend. On the property, the IMBO property, is about 14 kilometers of strike. That's a trend of 14 kilometers. Very little of it has been, thoroughly investigated. And our geologists, we've been going since Christmas. Our geologists have been on the ground there. They've been busy doing reconnaissance work along that trend, and they found an area called IMBO East. It's quite hard to get there. They've got to walk in 4 hours into the bush and take their samples and come back and things. But they've got some interesting rocks with. We've sent them to the lab now in Tanzania, so we'll get the results back soon. But that looks promising because it looks very similar to Adumbi in terms of it's associated with this banded ironstone. So we're getting quite excited about that. So if we can, double the size of Adumbi, plus get some more resources along trend. That'll be great, and that'll be, Imbo is 76% Loncor, and and obviously we've got the other prong is the Barrick, the drilling by Barrick. So it's quite a lot of news we should be bringing to the market, and good news over the next few months.
Well, you can get more information at loncor.com, and you can see all these maps, and I'll be sharing on to my subscribers and online some of these maps that we've discussed here. As we conclude, we have here today with us the president of Loncor Resources, which can be traded as LN on the Toronto and as LONCF. As we conclude, especially for North American investors, why should people invest? The concerns about DRC and why this team has the experience, the know-how to take these projects forward, and to get Barrick as a partner, the confidence that Barrick has in this team, and especially your experience. So if you could just conclude and summarize why Loncor, why this team, and why DRC right now.
Sure, Jeff. Well, Barrick have developed and it's in production a world-class mine at Kibali, which is about 200 kilometers away from us. Mm-hmm. In a way, the Ngayu Belt, whether be it in way back in 2010 with Newmont or now with Barrick, it's a huge, it's a major greenstone belt, and Barrick recognized. Barrick are comfortable now. They've found this major operating mine with huge operating margins in the DRC. They're comfortable with the country. They know how to operate, and I think we know how to operate as a junior as well in a major greenstone belt. And we're more than happy to have Barrick as a joint venture partner. They're earning a 65% equity, and I think by the very fact they entered into the joint venture is relates to the caliber of the geologists we have. We've got seasoned geologists who've worked and found mines in Tanzania and in the Congo further south with on the Twangese and the Moya Belt. So we do our work well. The people, a major can come in and can see the work we've done and what the potential is. So the more we can add value to our projects outside the Barrick joint venture, well then more chance some other major is going to come in.
And you have some good shareholders too, other than your shareholder roster. Could you remind us?
Yes, well, Arnie Conrad, the founder, he's got a major. I think it's 29%, and then we have Resolute Mining, which is a big Australian gold producer with mines in Africa as well. They've got 27%.
27%.
I think it's 27%. Okay. Yeah, 26%. Yeah. Arnie's got 29%. So I think Newmont still have a 10% of that order anyway. So it's
not much of a gold here. It's pretty tightly held.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Peter, thank you so much for taking out the time today, for giving us an introduction to the team. I hope to have more conversations with you. There's a lot going on in the DRC now with Barrick and on your own properties. I hope this is just the beginning for people to start researching and learning more about this team and your background and the caliber of work that you guys are doing now, and why Barrick has come in. Thank you so much, Peter. Peter's the president. Peter Catalysts, the president of Loncor, which can be traded as LN on the TSX, and it also can be traded as LONCF CF. You can get more information at loncor.com. Thanks so much, Peter, and stay safe there in the UK.
No, a pleasure, Jeff. It's good to talk to you. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks so much.